All right, so moving forward, your UCCs. Okay, so UCC liens are used when a creditor wants to give you notice to other lenders that the interest is in the debtor's property. UCC1 financing statement is generally filed with the debtor's Secretary of State when a loan is originated. Right, they can attach the UCCs in a wide range of assets, including inventory, equipment, real estate, vehicles, accounts receivables, investment securities. So essentially, this is like a lien on public record of your business, letting somebody know that, hey, I have secured some type of assets from that. Now, it could be different types. We're going to get into that a little bit later on. But you want to stay away from these type of companies for lines of credits or term loans or business loans. They will file a UCC even though it's unsecured. So Maurice asked, what's so bad about UCCs? It's not the fact that it's bad about they're bad essentially, right? They have a use, and I'm going to get into it right now. There's different uses, from it though. But when you're doing our credit hacking element, where like, how did I get $1.3 million with about 17 different banks? I went from one to another, all 50, 100, 150,000 underneath the threshold of the UCC requirements for every bank. But if I have that UCC being placed on that, if I go to the next lender, they're like, hey, what's this? Oh, we don't like to be in second position. So you need to pay that off first. And we want to be in first position, because what happens when you have these UCCs, what is actually a good point to my next slide, is that you can have UCCs with specific collateral, kind of real estate or equipment. There's another one called a blanket UCC, which covers all your assets. Very common for SBA, or if you're going larger loan amounts, some of different thresholds of 150, 250,000 or more. Accounts receivable factoring, purchase order factoring. These are all different types of lenders or loan programs that will cover the whole entire, assets of your company. So it's going to prohibit you from getting more by having those. So that's why I'm a firm believer of going maybe a little bit less, but then I can go in quantity to do that.
100%.
Okay. So reducing the bank's risk, right? If your credit isn't perfect, right, putting up collateral can reduce the risk, right? That's approving you. So if you had some boo-boos on your personal credit, but having that real estate or anything that you want to pledge can give some security to that to that lender, right? And so it's just really about looking at the whole entire picture of what you're looking for and what you're going to do with it. But if you are able to provide collateral, right, they'll go for it. So if you have a UCC and it got paid off, you have to make sure that you check your business credit report. Because a lot of times I've had clients that had 3, 4, 5 of them that were paid off. Before I was able to go in and get one of my clients, I got about close to about $500,000. But I had to go and work some surgery on optimizing his business credit, and I had to make sure that he went to his lenders to get a letter so we can then update the element. But you can file something called a UCC3, which terminates it from the Secretary of State. You get to submit it to your lender to get that done. Okay, so you have to be on top of it, right? Just like you're on top of your personal credit. It works very similar to your business credit as well. And know the rules of the game before you play, right? Understanding how this all works allows you to make smart decisions moving forward. Make sure you get approvals after approvals after approvals. Moving forward now, national expansion. How the art of foreign filings to maximize your lending opportunities.
Dude, you're getting good with these AI. How many people think that Anthony's an artistic soul? Look at this. He's running the dolly on steroids, man. Like
I had a lot of fun.
New York
I had
is
a
kind
lot
of
of
messed
fun.
up
I'm
though.
like,
why is New York and Montana, bro? And why is this? That's a little weird, man. I think
so when I looked at it, I'm like, that's kind of odd. Why is it doing that? But then again, I asked it to provide me a representation of foreign filing. So if your domicile is in New York and you want to move your company and foreign filing into Montana, I'm like, man, California's not in Texas. What is this?
where's Ohio at, bro? Where did you put? Where is Ohio?
I didn't put Ohio. Chat did. All right, let's move forward.
I love
It's
it.
interesting because sometimes that you can see like um setting it up a businessman multitasking. I'm like, come
Dolly's
on,
still learning.
Dolly, please fix your spelling. You're not 3 years old. Let's go. All right, so what is
Bless.
foreign filing, right? It's the process of registering your business in other states than other than the one that you're currently incorporated in, right? This is what we call foreign filing, right? It's kind of like foreign qualifications. It's like, qualifications for a business is like getting a driver license for a new state when you move. So just like you need a valid driver's license to legally drive from one state to another, as you're moving, the business needs to register for foreign qualifications to legally operate in a state other than it was originally formed. Okay, and this is how you can expand your lender network from where you formed a company to the next one. It's really simple to set up. You don't need to pay, your legal Zooms, your court nets, and there's a thousand other ones out there. But if you just go into Google and says foreign file in Florida, right? Because I'm here in Miami, you can see it gives you a lot of information on what to do. You want to essentially go to the Secretary of State reference, right? And just be able to register your company there. You do need a registered agent, essentially somebody that can accept documents on your behalf. If something happened, if you get sued, they need to have somebody who's representation. But if it's in your own state, you could be your own registered agent. But if it's in a different state, you need somebody. And don't confuse that, oh, yeah, I'm in Wyoming and I'm going to use the registered agent address as my business address because it's not the same. I've had some clients, you know, um, tell me that before. So you have to get into your corporate compliance, right? So if I'm in Miami and I am registering it in, a different state, I'm gonna need to set up the virtual address or brick and mortar. Make sure the virtual address doesn't have anything associated with fraud. But the fact that, a lot of these challenges that we've been facing is that if you're in a location, even a Regis or an OPA, all these different other companies out there. But if somebody did fraud, it's going to be on Google, and a lender's going to look at that, an underwriter, and that can then kill your loan because that address was associated with some fraud in the past. And they don't go next to that. Does that make sense? So you have to go through the same exact corporate compliance structure that I've been teaching you online, update your online presence, local listings, websites. So if you have two different locations, you have one in Miami and I have, let's just say, one in Vegas, I'm going to put that on my website because I'm proud that I just expanded my operation. It has to make sense, from that. So you need a good story of why you expanded. Okay.
Yep. Yep. And that's what they're not telling Anthony. They're not telling people that. They're just saying, oh, just do a foreign filing and do key bank. Like, bro.
So now the question is, if you go through the details, right? The devil's in the details, right? You're gonna need to look at, okay, well, if I'm in Miami and I have a Florida license and I have my new location in Vegas, so if you're able to get a state ID from the state that you're foreign filed in, then it does make the whole story a little bit bigger. I'm going cross between Vegas and Miami. That's how I'm able to operate the whole thing over here, right? So when I was living in California, I had a state ID, but in my driver license, I had in Miami for over 10 years. Okay, and at the same point, I was able to get an Arizona ID, which it's kind of crazy because that never expires. I literally still have it. It's like 10, 15 years ago, and I still have that from that time. But allows me to, hey, if I want a foreign file in Arizona, I can show that I have a physical address over there. It
Hmm.
just essentially it helps with the whole story of, working the system in the foreign filing game, which, hey, you can use your state ID if you know somebody's address, right? Fly in there, go and get that. You can have as many state IDs. You can only have one driver license. I learned
Yep.
that the hard way when I got my global entry, and the custom homeland security officer was like, you got a driver license in California and Florida? I'm like,
Oh
yeah,
no.
is that
Oh
not? He's like, no, man, you you can't have two. I was like, okay, cool. I'll go and kill the California. Thank you. Well, yeah, it's again. So when I was living in California, I maximized all the banks in that state. Those are great funding states, but again, not so great for taxes. Then I set up shop in Miami, in Florida, and then now I worked all the Florida banks. So I got the best of both worlds, right? And that's kind of how I was able to leverage my banks out there. Does that make sense?